This story right here, if y'all remember, I actually spoke about not even that long ago. It might have been towards the end of November, maybe around or after Thanksgiving, when I talked about this, or at the earliest, the first week of December, involving this woman whose name is Bryn Spejcher. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. In which she went on a stabbing frenzy when she ended up murdering this man who she was dating. It was just a brief dating thing. And then they tried to blame it on the weed in which she was smoking. And that was an entry, definitely for sure, into the Operation Protect the White Boy, White Woman edition, just on the fact alone that they tried to blame it on marijuana for the reasoning as to why she did what she did. Now let's fast forward to here, where this is a rarity for me to have to spin the block on an Operation Protect the White Boy type of style video, but this time again we're doing it on the same woman, because I just received this DM from one of my subscribers where this woman was only sentenced to 100 hours of community service. So they basically gave her 1 hour of community service for each time she stabbed this man to death. And this is what the judge said. They said she had no control over her actions after the weed caused her to have a quote unquote psychotic break. That is what the judge said. This is very worrisome and dangerous in more ways than one, because we all know that weed does not make you do that unless it's laced with something, which they came back and they never said if anything was in the weed that she took to cause her to act erratic like that, or act psychotic, I should say, and go on a straight up frenzy when she murdered this man. So now it's going to be looking like they're going to look at this one case right here, and they're going to look at weed and think that, oh, you know what? If you just want to get away with something, just blame it on the weed. Of course, that's only going to be a one-sided thing, because look, this is a PC woman. Now get this. The man that she murdered, just in case y'all forgot when I talked about this, was another PC man. So this could have been seen as white on white crime. This was not a man of another ethnicity. This was another white man that she did this to. If y'all remember, like I said, it wasn't too long ago when I spoke on this. As a matter of fact, when I spoke on her, she had a lot of cuts and bruises around her face. Of course, she looks more clean and healed here in the courtroom in this picture. But this woman straight up murdered this man, and all she got was 100 hours of community service. This is like peak Operation Protect the White Woman right here. A California woman who stabbed a man she was dating 100 times and killed him before turning the knife on herself and her dog has been handed 100 hours of community service. Bryn Spejcher, age 32, was given the astonishingly low sentence following psychiatrists' ruling that the tragedy was 100% caused by cannabis-induced psychosis, which she suffered after taking 2 hits of the victim's bong. Now peep that. They're saying that she suffered this psychosis or this psychotic break after hitting 2 hits on his bong. So again, now they're going to try to shift it into saying it was him who caused her to go off the way that she did, because it was his bong, not hers. And that's what I was worried about when I first talked about it. If y'all haven't seen, you know what, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna pin the link to that video that I did down there, and y'all can go back and listen to the details that they gave there. And I said the same exact thing. I said, watch, they're gonna try to flip it and put it on him. The judge ruled that Bryn experienced a quote-unquote psychotic break from reality and had no control over her actions when she killed Chad O'Melia, then 26, on Memorial Day weekend in 2018. She will spend the 100 hours educating others on marijuana-induced psychosis and 2 years on probation, but has promised to spend the rest of her life debunking the myth that cannabis is harmless. Wow. Omelia's family cried when the sentence was read out in Ventura Superior Court, with the victim's father warning it gave everyone who smokes marijuana in the state a license to kill. Campaigners told the Daily Mail that the judge's ruling was unforeseen in cannabis psychosis cases, while Bryn's attorney Robert Schwartz said the case should act as a warning against the use of increasingly potent marijuana. We will see more tragic cases like this as the availability of high potency marijuana spreads across the country. Like I said, this is who was running this courtroom. As long as weed has been around and as potent as it is, I've never heard any other case or situation like this that makes anybody go off the way that it did. Again, there's nothing there that says that this weed was laced with any type of drug that would make her do this. It just says that it was high potency, which means she just had some good shit. And like I told you, myself and others who are probably listening to this have gotten high before, and it has never ever made us act out this way, let alone even have the thought of wanting to commit this kind of act. I've already told you when I did the video about her before, when I indulged, it just made me relaxed. That's all I did. I was just chill. This woman literally murdered the man she was dating, and it was not the weed that made her do it. I don't give a damn what they say. It was not the weed. She wanted to do that. Bryn, who was an audiologist originally from Chicago but lives in Thousand Oaks, California, was found guilty of manslaughter on December 23rd following a dramatic and heart-wrenching trial. Now, peep that. She was found guilty of manslaughter, and this was the sentencing they gave her. No jail time, just 100 hours of community service and 2 years probation, and saying she got to go speak to people as a part of her community service about the harmful effects of weed. Meanwhile, Jonathan Majors could possibly face even though I know it's not going to happen, a year in jail for trying to get away from his attacker. Yes, I call Grace Jabari an attacker because basically that's what she was. I mean, she chased the man for blocks down the street in New York at night. Make it make sense. I guess it's a good thing Alvin Bragg wasn't over her case, because then he probably would have had her walk all together and not do not one bit of community service. At the time, Bryn, who was partially deaf, oh, here we go, because they didn't mention that part when I talked about her before, described how she'd taken one puff of a bong but didn't want to smoke it anymore, so now they're going to try to make it seem like she was pressured into doing it. She says she felt pressured, there it is, by Omelia, who was a regular smoker and he's been dating for a month. What did I tell you? They was going to put it onto him. I'm telling you, go back and watch the video and you'll hear me say it. That's it. I would not be surprised if they tried to quote unquote victim blame it and shift it his way. Within minutes of inhaling the potent cannabis-infused vapor for the second time, Bryn began hearing and seeing things that weren't there and believing she was dead and that she had to stab Omelia in order to bring herself back to life. Well, I don't know about the things about her being dead and feel like she'd be brought back to life, but the things about hearing and seeing things, that's, depending on what kind of weed you have, that's a commonality. It just is what it is, depending on what kind of weed you have. But again, nothing to the effect of wanting to do what she did. Some of the country's top forensic psychiatrists concluded that this experience was 100% consistent with previous accounts of cannabis-induced psychosis. We know pretty conclusively that marijuana can lead to psychiatric illness, Dr. Timothy Fong, faculty leadership of the Cannabis Research Initiative at University of California, Los Angeles, and clinical psychiatrist told the Daily Mail. Sentencing today, Judge Worley said the task of sentencing is made all the more difficult by the people that the decision will impact the good people, but he added that he does not believe further incarceration is necessary. The sentencing proceedings, featuring closing statements from close members of both her and Omelia's family. Bryn's brother, mother, father, grandmother, and one of her oldest friends spoke of her life spent helping others, referring to her numerous paid and voluntary roles assisting deaf and hard of hearing people. Again, they never mention anything about her being hard of hearing or nearly deaf in the previous one, but they pulled all the stops here because they had to throw the sympathy card on for her. Helping others was the only career goal she ever had, said her mother, Lori Pierce. Meanwhile, her father, Michael, told the courtroom that his daughter had spent her time on probation volunteering at her local pet store and learning sign language during the evening, in the hope that maybe one day she could get back into helping those in the hearing impairment world. Now, keep in mind, this woman, again, ended up in my Operation Protect the White Woman Hall of Shame, is because she never spent one day in jail since she did this. All the time that she's been spent since 2018 when she did this was on basically house arrest. Well, not even so much house arrest, but she probably had a monitor on. She could only go so far, but it was never any jail time. So this whole time she was out of jail. She never spent one day behind bars for what she did. In her closing statement, Bryn said, "I wish I could go back in time and prevent this tragedy from happening. I wish I had known more about the dangers of marijuana. Had I known, I would have never smoked it that night or at all. What they should have done, if they was real, was go back and see if she had smoked weed at any other point in her life before then. That would have determined it right there. But this wouldn't be an Operation Protect the White Woman if we question things, We're not supposed to question it. We should just let it happen. Just let it go with the flow." She promised to dedicate her life to sharing information on marijuana and its harms. On the night in question, a young woman arrived at Amelia's Thousand Oaks condo at around 10:30 p.m. after he had invited her over. I'm not even going to read the rest into it because it's basically a rehashing of what I talked about in the other video. Is basically the case, or the lead up to it and everything that she did leading up to. If you want to check that out, you can go back and watch that video again. I'll pin it down below. But yeah, I didn't think I was gonna have to spin the block on this one. I thought, hey, if it was an update where it just said that she had to get sentenced, they told you what her sentencing was, I probably would have just saved it for a live stream and threw it in there as an update. But I had to make this into a separate video where it just shows you right here that even against their own, there's going to be sacrifices. This guy was one of them. Like, that's crazy. Now, here's the thing. Imagine if she would have did this to, say, a black man. Who knows what her sentencing would have been, if she would even, she probably would even got the community service. Like I said, if she had Alvin Bragg as her as her on her team, she probably wouldn't have gotten any community service at all. Just look at how he did the Jonathan Majors trial. So yeah. The PC woman has won yet again, and she tried, and the PC woman will walk around here and act like she's so degraded and so beneath. But look at what just happened right here. Now I'm curious, what is the PC clan as a whole gonna have to say about this, if they gonna say anything at all? Here you have a white woman who literally murdered this white man, stabbing him 100 or more times, and all she got was 100 hours of community service, then spend one day in a jail cell or in prison for what she did, even though she was found guilty of manslaughter. Let that sink in, y'all. She was found guilty of manslaughter. She pretty much got found guilty on every count that she had, but she still basically walked scot-free. If you want to be technical, she did. So here we are. I'm just curious, what do they got to say about this? I've already said what I have to say. Some of y'all didn't even know this story even existed, but when I saw this DM, I said I definitely remember the story because it wasn't that long ago when I talked about it. I recognized the name, I recognized the story, I recognized his face, his name, the details, and I was like, okay, there it is. The only thing they threw in there was the part about her being quote unquote hard of hearing. That was not in the original story, but they had to dig it up. They had to bring that up in this trial again to get people to feel sympathy for her. I don't feel nothing for her. I feel absolutely nothing for her. And I hope people remember her face. This is going to be the woman known as getting away with manslaughter, quote unquote, and saying the weed made her do it. She might be one of the, well, I'm not going to say she's the first one to do it because I'm sure there's plenty others who have done it as well.